faculty voice. And then right now, you do not allow any part-time faculty member to speak for public comment. So that is you to support faculty voice. And then you continue to talk about yourself. You are the only faculty elected member, while the majority full-time faculty never even participated in vote because they are disgusted. I don't know why that you're so proud of your accomplishment. Mia Walker asked my professor Tracy Bolis several critical questions. And then, why does that matter? What's your point? So I want to know that why you are able to discredit her race, her ethnicity, and why everybody has to respect you. If you are doubting her race and her ethnicity, I want to ask you, what is your race? What is your ethnicity? And why does that matter? That's the same question you asked Professor Bolis. She is okay with that because she is fine, she is nice to everyone. But I am a social justice warrior. I am not okay.
Do you have any other comments? No. Okay.
Oh, I need to make a motion to amend the agenda to add Joshua Fleming and Don McClure to the selection committee for a forensics coordinator position. That's J1B on the agenda.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Is there any discussion on this? Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Nay? Any abstentions? Okay, you can add them to the agenda. Thank you so much. Okay, now we have the approval of the minutes. I need a motion to approve the minutes. Motion by Talene and seconded by Jeff Hutt. Is there any discussion on this? Yes.
Just need to add my name. I was present last.
Thank you so much. We will amend the minutes to reflect that you were here. Professor Valentine. Okay. Okay, with that amendment, all those in favor of approving the minutes, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Anyone abstaining? Awesome. Okay, so the minutes are approved with amendments. Okay. Next, we have PCCFA.
Yes. Hello, everyone. Last Friday, we had a very informative counselors workshop with our adjunct faculty members. Based on the workshop, I think many adjunct faculty are now considering making some adjustments to their retirement options, which is always great. We will also have a workshop, counselors workshop geared towards full-time faculty tomorrow at noon. You should have received that invitation in your mailbox. So we encourage everyone to attend. Obviously, if you're getting up for retirement or considering retirement options, we highly encourage you to attend. Again, that's 12 to 1 on Zoom. Thank you.
Any questions for Faculty Association?
Thank you, Bevel.
Next, we have the adjunct faculty. Okay, we'll move forward. Classified Senate. Thank you. Associated students.
Hello. So our homecoming week just finished up. It was fantastic. Thank you to the ones who told your students about it. We had a huge turnout. It was a lot of fun for them. The next event we have is this Wednesday. We're going to be taking over the CC building. So in the Piazza, it's going to be university transfer night. All the colleges are coming over, and right next door in the Wi-Fi lounge, we'll be kind of doing an essay workshop type thing with transfers, counselors helping us write out our essays. And so we'd love for you guys to tell your students about it. Both events are from 4 to 6. There's free food on both sides, so there's nothing to hate there. Free food, counselors, and academic advisors from the colleges are all going to be here.
Are there any, is that it? I'm sorry. Is that it?
Yeah.
Do you have any questions for the associated students? Yes, they do.
Can you repeat the date, please?
It's going to be this Wednesday, November 8th,
November
from 4
8th.
to 6.
Were there any other questions for associated students? I have one. Did we win the game?
You did win the game.
Oh, yes.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. Okay, Management Association. Thank you so much. Now we're on to our officers' reports, starting with me. I have good news. The interim president would like to partner with the Academic Senate and the Office of Instruction to elevate our Liberation Through Education campaign. And what that looks like, this would include a gallery showing of photos of the students being used for the campaign, and a presentation from the photographer and his work, who is PCC alum. He was also a PCC leader, and he's worked all over the world taking photos, so that is in the works. Also, VP Jones, thank you very much, is also working on ways to preserve the work and to display it for future generations of Lancers to discuss and to enjoy. So thank you so much to both of you. And I would like to read a statement that I prepared for the Senate. Make sure this can be heard. It has not gone unnoticed that parts of the public comment section of our meeting have been directly targeted at Professor Walker and I. It does not go unnoticed that of the 4 executives seated at the front of the room, those remarks are directed at the 2 Black women on the executive committee. This is what racism and sexism looks like, and unfortunately, our Senate is not immune to racism or sexism and sexist behavior, I would like to remind the faculty that we are your faculty colleagues and not paid administrators or managers. We are teachers and counselors who hurt when blatant lies and overt racist remarks are made to or about us. As human beings, these types of comments, relentless, baseless criticism, and our constant need to defend ourselves from other faculty members who have unknown agendas take their toll. It is a shame that I cannot allow my children to attend these meetings, as they have in the past, out of fear of harm coming to them, either physically or emotionally, from seeing their mother being constantly attacked. The Academic Senate should be a place where we as scholars come together to make our college better for our students, not to weaponize students or rules or whatever. This has become a hostile place where some believe they can showcase their ability to bully others and slow the progress that we as faculty are trying to make. Furthermore, I would like to thank my colleague, Dr. Sheila Rose, for not calling the student in question by their requested name of Shaniqua Bonfelicia, which is racist in nature, as that is not the student's legal or given name. We have chosen to advocate for faculty because we want to make sure the faculty voice is heard. None of us have taken these roles as a means of advancement or any other reason but to serve. Trust me, the cost greatly outweighs the benefits. I encourage the senators to speak up against racism and sexism or any ism that rears its ugly head in our space. Furthermore, I hope that you as my colleagues and friends would know that there is no order to racism, so you can't be called out of order for calling it out. That's the end of my report. Vice President's report.
So just wanted to remind everyone about our role in this place, in this space. Just wanted to read from our bylaws. We are here for a job. We're here to do good work. And us as senators, our role is to, of course, regularly attend our meetings in the Academic Senate, board and vote accordingly on issues that represent the interests of the division areas that have elected you. On a side note, and also senators representing our adjunct senators, you are representing all adjuncts when you discuss matters. So you will bring issues from your division areas to the Academic Senate board, concerns and issues from your area that fall under our purview. You will solicit input on any issue that you think they would like to hear from the Senate, back to your areas. I think I said that twice. Anyways, just a quick reminder as to why we're here. And that is to do good work and get work done, and to include our areas when we make decisions, and when we speak not just for ourselves, but for those that we represent. Just to piggyback off of our president, only because I mentioned as well in a lot of hurtful emails and comments and stuff like that. People have a misconception of what racism, sexism, and the isms feel like. It's something intangible to a lot of people, but when it hits you, it's very tangible. You know what it is, you know what it smells and tastes like. Bless you. So, just put that out there in case someone is thinking whatever. There's no way to invalidate how someone feels, and just wanted to thank those of you who have said kind words to us, but just a reminder that as to why we're here. And the misconception is that we are strong. That is a misconception. We have feelings like anyone else. We feel things, our children hear us, they know when something's wrong. Like, we are like real living, breathing humans who have feelings. So, to piggyback off of my colleague, just a reminder that we go through a lot in person and behind the scenes. And I'll just leave it at that, because it takes a lot of energy away from the good work we want to do, but we're determined because we are here to leave a legacy along with you all. That's why y'all are here, to help us leave a legacy. We're all here to say that that group of senators got this done, or they approved this, or they passed that, and that's why our campus is improved, right? So that's why we're here. So that's my report.
Thank you. Any questions for our vice president? Also, the president, I forgot to ask. Okay, our secretary's report.
Nothing to report.
Okay, treasurer's report.
Okay, so as you can see, we only have a 68% increase. We're basically the same that we were last time, for a total of $17,577.93. I would also like to report that last Friday, on October 27th, I attended the 2023 Fall Plenary Session Resolutions Pre-Conference for the Academic Senate for California Community Colleges, and I will be attending their plenary session from November 16th to the 18th. And so I'm happy to represent our campus, and I'm going to need your support as well when we discuss the issues that are on the agenda later today. But I did want to report that in my role that I'm attending and representing PCC through the Academic Senate California Community Colleges. Thank you.
Any questions for our treasurer? Yes, Marcia?
Who signed up to have donations? When do they start coming out?
That's a good question. All of them have, or some of them have already come through. Like, we saw an increase last time in that. But I'll keep an eye out for that and let you know when they come through. But this month, nothing, or this week rather, nothing has come through. But I believe it was 1 time or 2 times ago where we had a slight increase due to those donations. So they do matter. Thank you. Yes.
Any other questions for our treasurer? Thank you so much. Now we'll go on to our information items, and we'll be having a student services update by Dr. Miriam Altucci.
Everyone, just some quick reminders. Winter session registration is in progress. I have a couple, so this is not different from our last presentation, but I did want to share some numbers with you as to where we're at right now. We're trending like we had previously, I think, in our winter. We don't have a comparison, but looking back a few years when we did have a winter, we're still looking okay. Tomorrow we'll have about 5,600 students able to register. So this is only out of the students who have been able to register so far. So we still have a few groups left to go. Non-credit starts their registration today. So that's why we're seeing not very large numbers in that area yet. I expect that they will continue trending high as they have been. The spring schedule of classes also came out on the 30th of October. There is a website sort of dedicated to the spring schedule and things that students need to know. So we'll continue to update things on there, but these are just generalities. I did confirm that we have our UPass again in the spring. So please share with your students. There is a deadline for them to apply for UPass. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind for spring semester start. Any questions about spring registration? That doesn't kick off until November 27th. Okay, yeah. Oh, sorry, I can't call you.
I like to say,
Oh, thanks.
very busy with people.
Well, thank you. Cut and paste. Snippet is my best friend. Okay, so in speaking with registration, of course, our students need support. Their primary points of contact are still the success coaches. The success coaches are well trained in how to facilitate student registration processes, handle any errors that may come up. So when in doubt, please point them in that direction. They have a couple of ways that they can reach their success coaches. In PCC Connect, they can raise their hand and say, I need help, and a coach will reach out to them. If that's not fast enough, they can certainly go to our Get Help page. So, sorry, the color is really poor on here, but when you get the link to this particular presentation, there's a direct link to our Get Help page where you can get to it from our main website. And it will allow students to have access to either in-person or virtual support. So we have folks kind of monitoring that virtual support center to help answer questions and connect students with any support. This year, for the first time, we're going to be working out in the Success Center hub in D300 and working with the folks up there. And we'll have counseling and, again, coaches and the staff up there all trained to help support students through the registration process. So I know this is creating two different spaces to send students, but first-year students can always go to the FYE Center in V100. Continuing students can go up to D. So the FYE Center is not as big as it's too small to handle all of the students that are coming in. So please help your students differentiate between which centers to go up to. We'll send out specific dates and times of when support will be available, but starting November 30th. So November 30th, we're going to have spring registration support ongoing from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. every day in both centers and virtually through counseling and so on. So I'll send more details once we have those all handed out. First Gen Day, we've got an event coming up on November 8th at from 11 to 3, so please share that with your students. And this is all in the calendar of events, so you can get the details or share it with your students through the calendar of events. And UC and CSU applications are due on November 30th, so please remind your students if they haven't done so yet to reach out to the Transfer Center for support with their applications or any questions that they may have. And then, as mentioned, University Night is planned for November 8th. And that's the end of my presentation.
Are there any questions regarding, yes, Dr. Owens?
Do you mind showing us the calendar on the website, please?
They can. So typically I'll get to it from the main website, and if you, huh? You wanna do it from that part, this one?
Yeah.
There's those pretty pictures. So you can scroll through, any of the events that have images typically will pop up here, and then others are listed down here. So don't discount the list below, because sometimes it is the case that they don't all pop up in the scrolling image bar at the top.
Are there any other questions for student services? Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Altundri. Next, we have the Vice President of Instruction update with Dr. Laura Ramirez.
Good afternoon, everyone. I just have a few updates. As we shared, winter enrollment started, so we're really happy. Students are registering. We're at a little over 500 FTS today. And then some things coming up. We have the library 30-year celebration tomorrow from 12 to 1. I'm sure somebody will share a little bit more about that, but that's exciting. And then our English and Languages Studies is hosting an open house on the 14th to share with students about careers in languages, careers in English. And I really would just like to reach out and say if any other division wants to have an open house and support just students understanding what a major in your respective area is, we have ways to do that. So please reach out to your division chairs, to your deans, if that's something you think you'd like to do. And I don't have any other updates. If there's any questions, I'm glad to answer any questions related to instruction and how things are moving forward.
Any questions for Dr. Ramirez? Yes.
I have a question about open house, if that's an opportunity for other departments. How is funding approached for that? Is it something that the department should already have, or would funding be available through your office to support an event?
So we've been working with fiscal services. We have some money for outreach and recruitment with the college rep. So if you have an idea of something you want to do, please reach out.
Any other questions for Dr. Ramirez? Thank you, Dr. Ramirez. Okay, next we have a Measure P bond program update with Vice President Candace Jones.
Good afternoon, everyone. Just wanted to give a couple of updates related to Measure PCC and the bond program. So as you all know, in November of 2022, the community passed a $565 million bond. So we thank our local taxpayers, and those of you all who support and live in the community and really want to see this place transform. There's lots of work to do. We sold our first Series A portion of that bond, so $130 million of that portion of that 565 was sold in July of this year, in the summertime. And so those funds now have been made available to the college to start our bond program activity. With that, there's a lot of work and preparation that we've been doing to kind of get ourselves organized in a cohesive way to regularly communicate out to the community. The Facilities Standing Committee, which is under College Council, is going to be forming or serving as the college's bond work group. And so that group, who the co-chair is Professor Tolalovic, who's amazing and has provided great leadership for that group for the last 2 or 3 years, is co-chairing that committee with myself. And we usually meet monthly, but now we have gone to a bi-weekly basis. So our next Facilities Standing Committee, where we start to ask questions and give presentation on sort of bond program activity, is on November 9th at 10 a.m. We work out of the C building in the President's Conference Room in 233. So if you are interested have questions, I would recommend that you definitely stay connected with her. She and I are working through just a regular updates of how we keep this body informed and the input that's going to be needed as we work through that program. In addition to that, we've set up two sort of informational committee sessions, one around the Serafian building. So there are representatives from the areas that will eventually inhabit those buildings to serve and start giving us guidance on furnitures, fixtures, and equipment. So it's the fun portion of the project. They get to kind of help shape how that area will transform and think through the equipment and the feel of the place. So that group meets on a monthly basis, and they meet the third Wednesday, I believe. So that's going on, and that's deliberate and intentional in that the individuals who are going to be working in those spaces, existing in those spaces, should play a really great priority in giving us feedback. And so they've selected, each of those divisional areas have selected faculty representation to give input, and so that's really wonderful. But now we're starting to get them the information that we need for Serafian building, which is scheduled to our tentative timeline for full opening is going to be spring of 2025. So there's lots of work to happen between now and then. So that's an additional sort of bond program activity work that's happening. We also have started informational sessions on our W building. We've hosted 2 sessions in the month of October. We've got another one scheduled in January. Just sort of giving the trajectory of that building as it relates to demolition. That we've stopped scheduling classes in there as of spring, so we're working really actively not only with our instructional partners, but also the faculty in that area who've been impacted. The faculty, so there are a few in this room who attended. I just want to say, we really appreciate the feedback. There has been really good information or things that we need to be mindful of, particularly around storage. There's lots of storage issues on this campus if you don't know, but storage and flooring concerns, just to make sure that we are making sure that those classes and instructional opportunities continue to happen as we move forward in our planning process. I think those are the major. That group again will reconvene in January so that we can give an update on all of the items that were sort of laid at our doorstep as, to solve, to start getting input and giving that feedback out to that community. Some of which are actually continuing to happen, particularly with our dance faculty. They are meeting with their deans on some flooring options.
I need a motion to extend. Tracy?
Motion to extend.
Okay, second by Bevel. Okay, are there any objections to approving this by unanimous consent? Seeing none, this is approved in another 5 minutes.
You said the last sentence, and just, kind of continuously working with them to make sure that we're ready for spring 2024 classes.
Are there any questions? Yes, Tracy.
Yes. Hence our meeting that I attended via Zoom. I had some ideas. I don't know if I can share that with you briefly, quickly. But since the W building is slated to come down, and you just said Serafian is slated to open spring of 2025, is there a way we could delay the W building project so that when we're looking for classroom space for dance and kinesiology and some other places, that maybe we could use some of the Serafian building space and we're not left in limbo with nowhere to put classes? Because we're landlocked, PCC is teeny compared to UCLA. Yeah. So what do you think about that?
I would say 2 things. The Serafian building has already been programmed for the activity. There are no dance spaces or large, they're largely lecture and lab science areas that have been programmed. So it would be a very difficult pinch. Those rooms were never intended for dance. And so I think the Serafian building may not be sort of an appropriate tag, and also we have faculty that we actually need to move into that building to get them out of Science Village so that there's other work in the e-building that can happen. I did write down your suggestion around sort of other space options, and we are working really proactively with our scheduling area and the dean of that area to make sure that we have enough space on this campus to serve the need.
Certain needed classes that we currently offer in both of those divisions.
That are currently scheduled for spring of 24. I think there's about 15 or so dance classes, but yes.
That's good news if you can pull that rabbit out of a magical hat.
We'll get our hat ready.
Any other questions or comments for, yes?
Yes, one of the things I've been trying to achieve at the PCC is additional adjunct office space. So I was able to work with my dean and transform C209 into an adjunct office space, one of the only adjunct designated offices on campus. Can you confirm or deny that there will be an adjunct office space in the new building?
I can neither confirm nor deny, but I will take that as an action item to get you some information back. I don't know that room well enough for me to say that off the top of my head.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
On that note, if I could just interject one thing, why that's so important, I just want to say that when I had my daughter, I had an office and I was able to pump breast milk, freeze it, and take it home because I had an office. So I think it's very important, not only adjuncts, but for people, all of us have office, which I think that is one topic that's really talked about. So the privacy, convenience, and I think long-term adjuncts, people like Anthony in 26 years, nice to have an office.
Thank you for that feedback. I only want to do a little quick plug that there are lactation rooms across campus that HR, actually there's space, individual private spaces. And so I'm happy to also share where those spaces exist on campus and the process to get keys to those locations with our Academic Senate Executive Board, and they can share that out to the community.
Any other questions or comments for VP Jones? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, now we'll have an anti-racism and safety discussion with our very own Senator Jeff Hutt.
Hi, everyone. I thought long and hard about what needed to happen or what I felt like I could do about some of the intense racism and excessive scrutiny that I see like I've never seen it before. Being an ally has run its course for me, and it feels inadequate. And just been hoping that a lot of this ugliness would just go away, and we can get back to business. And it just never seems to go away, and I watch it affect the health of colleagues, and all of the horrible impacts that it has are probably a long list. So my values tell me to do more than this, and that is what brought me here today and brought me to add this to the agenda. Now, what I intend, or what is my intended outcome, I'm not sure. I think I wanted to have a discussion with all the senators and see what their thoughts are about, what can we do? How can we be more than an ally? How can we be a co-conspirator to uphold our colleagues who have the same job as we do, except that they're stepping up to do something that very few people do. And most of these positions when they ran, they were unopposed. So we know how unappealing it is to do this work. And I know that their values brought them here to do it for the sake of students. Now, I also have the value of freedom of speech, and I think we all do. So I don't ever want anything I say to be inferred that I'm saying we should squash what people say. But just like in my classes, if a student feels bullied or targeted or shamed in some way, or if I see something like that happen, I know that I cannot take that away. I can't change that experience just happened. But what I can do is I can add to it, and I can speak out against it. And so by that virtue, that's what brings me here today, to ask the senators, is there something tangible that we can do to support our colleagues? Are there other feelings or discussion that we need to have about this? And trust me, it's not lost on me that now we're taking the time to talk about it. And the point of all this was that it seems to be taking up so much time from Senate, but I think it's worth it at this point. And so thank you for listening to what I have to say right now, and I just turn it over to the Senate to have a little bit of discussion if there's any thoughts or ideas about what people want to say about this.
Dr. Rose.
So I've been reading up about misuse of public comment and what different communities have done. It became a real issue when meetings went remote, and a lot of people had access to a forum much more easily than physically traveling to a space. And so there is legal precedence for these kinds of bodies making rules that public comment can only be made on agenda items or business that is pertinent to the body. So I think that is something that we could consider as a Senate, is making a rule that public comment has to be to something that's on our agenda. I'd have to look more into, would that have to be in the bylaws? Could that be a special rule of the Senate? Because we do have other special rules, so it would take a little bit of investigation, but that's one thought. Anyone else? Yes.
I'd just like to bring in some of the words of the Academic Senate, the state level, the Academic Senate for California Community Colleges. They have a resolution on anti-racism education that states that we should, as a Senate, create a local academic Senate goal focused on anti-racism and no-hate education. I know we already have our anti-racism policy, but I think we need to look at how we can use that to address what's happening in this space. The Academic Senate also calls for the need for calling in culture and to implement restorative justice practices into district and college culture. I'd also like to point to priority area A on campus climate and culture. Compared to blatant acts of racism and discrimination, the phenomenon of racial microaggressions, ordinary, mundane, subtle, verbal and nonverbal, intentional or unintentional, slights, insults, and snubs directly toward racially marginalized groups daily serve to crystallize or depict what is in the air that perpetuates a racially hostile campus racial climate. And I would like to say that I agree that it has become a racially hostile campus climate and needs to be addressed first in this body.
Thank you. Anyone else?
And just just to piggyback back off of what Lindsay was saying, that is our governing body, right? That is the governing body of all the academic senates for all the community colleges in California, and they have taken a stance. But our local body, I just want to remind everyone of your power and what you helped create, which is what Nadia passed out to you all. We as a group, as a Senate, we all created this VP 3400 on anti-racism. It was first a resolution that the Academic Senate representatives at the time passed unanimously. We were encouraged to make it into a policy. Those who were here to give input, you gave input. It took a while, and we worked really hard as a group and took it to all of the constituencies on campus. We went to College Council and the Board of Trustees to get this to be a living, breathing document. And that's something that we did as a group that came from the Senate. And so we are in line with our governing body. I did want to read a couple of lines from this. If you go to number 3 on this packet, it talks about what the district is referring to. It is the 4th line at the end. It says the district also acknowledges the historic underrepresentation of Indigenous, Black African American, Latinx, Latino, Latinx, Asian, Pacific Islander, Desi Americans, and all historically oppressed people of color in higher education. And if you go down to number 5, the last sentence, the college community will ensure a welcoming and safe and learning and meeting space to exist for these groups, students, staff, and faculty, that will build positive campus climate that promotes student engagement, inclusion, safety, and academic support for our students. We are here as a group of faculty members who must protect our main constituent, which is our students, and to encourage each other as a group. So I read that because I want us to remember that we want to create compassionate spaces, safe spaces for all of us. And that we do have to have tough conversations sometimes. So thank you, Jeff, for that. I thought you were still. Oh. Thank you for bringing up this tough conversation, but that's what helps create a safe space. And I think that we as a group should talk about possibly looking at what comments can be made in this space within reason of freedom of speech. But at a certain point, it becomes harassment, and it becomes unlawful, and it is approaching student conduct issues and faculty conduct issues as well. And that's all I have to say.
What's the motion to increase time? What's the maximum? 10. I like to motion for 10 more. 10. I like to motion for 10.
Do you have a second? Second, okay, if there are no objections, we can approve this by unanimous consent. Are there any objections to approving this for 10 more minutes? Okay, 10 minutes. Tell I'm sorry.
Thanks for doing this, Jeff. It's not easy, but it's probably the most important conversation we're having today. So thanks. I also don't exactly know where I'm going with this, but first of all, you two should not have to sit through this week by week and have to deal with this. So I'm so sorry, and thank you for standing up for faculty day in and day out in your jobs that you do, but having to hear really horrendous things said, specifically about you two. You are two strong, intelligent Black women, but you don't have to take it all the time. So I hope you know that there's more than one person in this room that has your back consistently. It's a thankless job, but thank you for doing it. I've been a senator for more than just your tenure, and I haven't seen this type of behavior being pointed towards the president and vice president ever before. And I wonder if it's because you're not a male, a white male. I really like the idea of discussing the maybe creating some sort of parameters for public comment, because while I believe in freedom of speech, there's points where freedom of speech can also teeter on like violence in words, and words matter. And I don't know about you, but I have felt very uncomfortable being in here for many reasons. For you, your safety, but even for ours. I think the campus needs to rethink the support. I wonder if it's not necessarily topics though related to the agenda, because I think sometimes public comment can be very fruitful when it's not on an agendized item. But however, if we have an anti-racist policy, I wonder if 100% whatever public comment must adhere to our anti-racist policy. I myself previously, years prior, have made a public comment that I felt was really important, but was not an agendized item. And so I don't want to take that opportunity away from our faculty and community members. But I think it needs to follow policy. And in this specific case, anti-racism is one of them, which would completely abolish some of the things that have been done and would prevent it. So I would implore the Senate to think about policies that are in place to encourage freedom of speech, but within the philosophy and values of our campus. And we as senators help support that as well. I'm sorry.
Anyone else? Yes, Mariah, and then Catherine.
So I agree with Celine. I think we definitely don't want to discourage freedom of speech. However, I think it would be completely appropriate to have that somewhere on the website or anywhere in the policy to say that. So you want any public comment must adhere to these certain policies or whatever, right? I think that's completely appropriate. I'd be okay with that. The other thing that I want to say is that we put a lot of emphasis into what we can do with students, treating them and being anti-racist, bringing these policies into our classroom, different policies and whatever, but there is not anything public that says we as colleagues, and not just faculty, but classified management, that we should also think about this, right? So I think, trying to not silence or discourage people from saying certain things is a mandate, because at the end of the day, we do have a lot of racism on this campus, and we all know it, and people don't talk about it. So I think as a Senate, we should bring it out of the Senate. I don't know if we go to the interim at this point, but we need, I've been hearing this about a lot of healings. So I think we need to come together and, dig a little deeper. I think it's insanity, so we're not going to talk, we shouldn't say this. And let's bring something to solve the problems that we're having. And really, hopefully try to get along.
Mariah?
It's not that you can say that there might be racism. It's very obvious. As somebody who is also a Black female, it is not what we're doing in this head. I think, Catherine, you make a great point as to what Tony was saying, is that if there's like a way that we can do a guided rubric of what can be allowed as comment or not along these lines, so that we're not just censoring. Because of course we do have really great comments that do actually promote our job to go further than just what's on our actionable list. And also I was going to ask, what is the actionable procedure that can be done? I mean, I know that for some people that they will try to call out harassment, but obviously that it doesn't still happen. So is there anything else as a group that we figure out if there's anything else? Because we have students here who are supposed to be learning from us. And this is not what I want to display. This is not what we come to do. It's embarrassing.
Yes, Kulu.
Thank you. Well, I want to first say that we all feel terribly, and I've been feeling terribly even last semester when I was just watching this. And it's really sad. It is very sad because our students are watching this, and we should be their role model. I also want to make it clear that I have seen the pattern, and I have seen the pattern not only academic senate officers are being attacked, but it's almost also like, I've seen it in the board of trustees. and it's, and it's also very shaming and embarrassing because this is like open to the community and we are higher education institute, our standards should be much higher. So also, it's like, it looks like there are few individuals responsible for this. So I hate to see that bad apples spoil the freedom of speech for the rest of us, right? There are people who really care about this institution and really care about our students and what we do. So I don't know the answer, but I really hope for some guidelines that will not take that away from public, especially those who intend well. I remember being an officer on a home association board and then people would come and attack us, right? Like, it seems like every time we are in that position, angry people will find a way to help them and attack you. So, I don't know how we can reach this, but I'm really hoping like everybody else here that have some guidelines that will allow us to continue this, the freedom of speech and allow people to give us, those who care about what we do and their institution, to give us their thoughts and what they want us to do. Because there is no way we can protect everything that's needed at the professional. But thank you for staying up.
I mean, it's been appalling, so I'm glad we're talking about it. To me, we shouldn't be using public comment to direct personal attacks, right? It should not be directed at people. So I think it's problematic to make it just to the agenda, because again, I think as we've heard, there are other things that people can bring, but I would support some sort of rule saying that you cannot directly attack individual senators, that you cannot use this as a forum for personal attacks, that you can focus on specific issues facing the community, you can focus on specific policies, but you should not be directing public comment at individuals. Because I think, I felt unsafe, and it's not directed at me, and I think we all feel that, if we were to be the one being yelled at, right, it does constitute a safety concern. It's unacceptable. So some sort of policy preventing personal attacks, or however we might phrase that, I think at least that's what I would be in favor of.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that obviously it's important that we need to change some of the regulations as it pertains to public comment. But what I would also like is campus police presence at our meetings, because I fear retaliation based on some of the comments that have been made in the past. If we change the guidelines and these people are not able to attack our senators in that way, I do fear retaliation from those individuals. So I would definitely like to see and encourage campus police presence, at least for the rest of the meetings this year, until we can make a decision to say, okay, we feel safe in that environment. Because obviously, living in the United States, we know the threat against us in our workplace, in different environments. So I just hope that we can have campus police presence in our future meetings as we decide what changes we make for the country.
Any motions to approve more time? 10 minutes?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, did you have a second? I have a second from Rebecca. There are no objections. We can approve this by unanimous consent. Are there any objections to approving this by unanimous consent? Seeing none, we have an additional 10 minutes. And I wanted to say something about what Bevel just said. In all transparency, we contacted campus police, and as you see, there's no police presence. Furthermore, we've talked to human resources, the vice president over there, and they said there's nothing they can do about the harassment that we've been experiencing. So when I say that we're out there, we're out there. Okay, anyone else? Danielle, and then Tracy.
I completely agree with the sentiments that have already been expressed. I'm just gonna carry the conversation forward and add that if their guidelines are made, perhaps there could be guidelines that are available publicly to future public commenters that state that they can, if it is possible, that they can be stopped during their public comment when it veers towards harassment, because it does take a lot for me personally, I will say for myself, to not say anything, the decibels that the volume is getting to just to start with, aside from the racist harassment that's occurring, the sheer yelling of it is a lot to endure, even if it's not directed personally. And I also want to note that we have at least one senator that I can think of that was here last year who left in protest, and they're not back. They did not come back to this body. They have somebody else representing their department. So we have seen a change in membership due to this type of behavior. So it's definitely beyond our exec board, beyond this body. And I really hope that if there are guidelines, that there can be guidelines included that state that the public comment can be halted when it veers towards harassment.
Thank you, Tracy.
Just thinking on it, and I don't know if it's against the Constitution, but can we screen? Are we allowed to screen the public comment? That's not against, that's against the law. I see. That idea, if we had a public comment and someone was not using that, being hostile, and we can't physically, can we leave in protest of not accepting that kind of public comment collectively? If like something is going down that is not copacetic, then we unify, stand, and exit?
I can't tell the senators what to do.
I'm just throwing out ideas because this is scary. I mean, what we've seen, it's only November. I don't even remember that one guy saying he was frightening. Yeah, remember, I don't know, I have a bad memory. Just getting to know the kid's name by heart. So, yeah, and it's sad that campus police says they can't be a presence here for us.
They didn't say anything,
they didn't respond. Sometimes not responding is your answer, unfortunately, so that's disheartening. Anyway, I was just throwing out ideas and we can brainstorm together to combat this issue in a better way.
Thank you. Yes.
I feel like there's no reason we couldn't just call the police at the beginning of the meeting. They do have to have some phone, and there's sort of nothing stopping us from saying there's someone in public comment that misses us every week. He had a bag today, and I had to say that. And then just his t-shirts alone seem to constitute harassment in my opinion. And I don't think any of us would tolerate that in a classroom or in an office space or anywhere on campus. And so that alone feels disqualifying. So, I mean, we could just not wear one of those t-shirts and still get up and run, but I think, you know, any way we can kind of stop this situation. But yeah, again, I think just seeing him, I feel like, please, hello. You know, it's literally the first number on my phone that I can say, just because of our situations on campus. Yeah, that's what.
Liliana and then Lindsay.
I just wanted to publicly thank both you, Gina and Marina, for serving in this capacity. And I am it is hurtful to see that, you know, such hostility is directed to really amazing campus leaders. Part of my inspiration for joining the Senate was I felt that I could contribute my voice here as a woman of color, that I could be an advocate for marginalized students here. So to see this constant hostility directed at, you know, the two Black women on our executive committee is very distressing. So if in any way, you know, if there's a committee or if there's a group of people that are going to draft guidelines that can have to serve in that capacity, you know, I think it is important to have public comments. Maybe, you know, people can bring up some comments that are not necessarily related to what's on the agenda. However, there are some norms and some guidelines for how people can offer constructive feedback or constructive comments. What I've witnessed in the public comments has not been constructive. And has actually been very hostile. So I also wanted to say that, while it can be scary and frightening what these people say, kind of their attitude when they come and make these public comments. As a person of color, I am also a little hesitant to have police presence, in some of these spaces because, there is like a history of, police brutality against communities of color. So I just wanted to, to put that out there. I'm not saying yes or no, but I did want to offer that perspective as well.
Lindsay?
I would just like to make the comment that if there are any faculty that are supporting the continuation of this behavior, that we stop weaponizing our students to make claims and promote our own agendas. So I think that if we have any sway in this, we need to take a step to make this happen.
I have to address that because I'm not behind that. I feel like that's directed to me with that. I know my name came up with who. I feel bad.
This is great.
Yeah, it's not any of my classes. Okay.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I came a little bit late, like I was just starting to know this, but I didn't see what happened, and so was there a question of whether or not we might have a security officer here? Is that what we were saying?
Well, that was one of the points in the conversation.
Okay, just wanted to clarify.
Anyone else? Yes.
Hi everyone, I'm new. I can only share, but I have an itch, so here I am. So this is my third meeting, literally, as an academic senate and as a senator. And I couldn't make it last meeting, and unfortunately, I had to be updated by the colleagues about what happened, the meeting that I missed. And to be honest, I'm very shook. I'm very surprised. I think from the first meeting, I could tell by public comment was not the most conducive to getting productive work done as at the academic senate level. So I was a little surprised from the first meeting. But just like hearing updates of like what had just happened, I just want to. I joined here so that we can get work done. We can continue to support the leadership that has been appointed by what I heard everybody was, absolutely, so for us to be one team and to get work done so that we can continue to provide best services we can, right, to all of our students, right? And so this type of like experience is honestly a little shocking for me, and I'm not trying to speak about me, but I can only speak for myself. I'm not even thinking about me, but all to say, I think that this type of conversation is much needed within the senators, and I just hope that we can all remember that even though there may be disagreements along the way, that the leadership is part of our team, and I would hope that we're all in the same boat to kind of row together, like a big old person, to really be remembered for our Senate. Over our Senate during these times of the year to really pass significant anti-racist policies for all members of the campus. And so that's kind of the reason why I joined. So yeah, I just want to say that, please.
Thank you, Carol. Okay, are there any other comments to add to the discussion? Yes. Professor Allen. And there's no other extension, so thank you for adding to the conversation. And this is for everyone. This anti-racist policy is not just for students, it's for the entire campus. So we definitely can use this document, and I want to thank everyone for those who came forward and said something in the discussion, and those of you who have constantly come to us after the meetings to say, to show your support. It's always needed. To thank you, Jeff, for being brave and coming forward and starting this for us. Let's move on with the agenda. Thank you again. Okay, so we're on to old business, but I do need to say that we're going to skip H1, which is AP BP 7330, because it was already approved. So that is not, that's scratched from the agenda. Okay, good. So we're on to AP 5925, Dr. Sheila Rose. That's recognition of student achievement.
Hello, so this is our third read. Thank you for suggestions for how to change the language here. So we're looking at the honors that we award our student. And we had a wonderful suggestion that we also offer honors to our part-time students, not just students taking 12 or more units, and also to our non-credit students. So we looked at the language from the LA Community College District, which was already in the practice of offering honors to part-time students. And they include students who are taking between 6 and 11 and a half units in those part-time honors. The LA community colleges are only offering those to students who have already completed 12 or more units. So it would probably be like a second year student if you were going part-time once you accumulated those units. So we reached out to see if there was any language or any restrictions that would prevent us from awarding those honors right from the first semester, and we could not find anything. So we will not have that restriction of completing 12 units before. And then our wonderful non-credit faculty also gave us language about the high school diploma program. Liliana, I had the thought that we should also be offering honors to our part-time high school diploma students. And so we had last time language about completing 4 classes, but then for part-time honors for non-credit students, does it make sense to have 2 adult high school diploma courses? Okay, wonderful. So those were the kind of updates since the last time we were here. Nothing else has changed in the AP since we looked at it last time. So if there are any questions or comments, I'd love to hear them. Yes, Tracy.
I think this is fabulous, and I'll tell you why. Going to school is hard. I remember me starting out for my college education. Any way that we can support students, let them know they're on the right track, and reward them for hard academic achievement will propel them to finish their degrees. I think this is probably one of the most enlightening things I've heard out of the way, and I just wanted to say, well done.
Well, we really appreciate all the wonderful suggestions we got from the floor. This is the Senate at work doing what it should be doing, so yay us.
Yes.
Are there any other questions for Dr. Rose? Yes, Tony.
This is great. I just have, I need to understand why for the part-time honors includes all students whose semester GPA is 3.5 or higher with A, B, or C grades in 6 to 11.5 units. Why with A, B, or C grades? What is that?
I think the idea is if you're getting a D or an F, so that you wouldn't necessarily qualify for honors.
Oh, in that semester.
Right. So even if you had an F in a class that was 1 unit, you could still earn a 3.5, but honors wouldn't necessarily.
Got it.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does, but then flip side, could a full-time student with a D or F grade get it? Yes, because that's what the ABC, okay.
Yeah, it's up there too.
It doesn't read clearly though, like if I was, that would be the only thing, like I would say approve it today, but it just doesn't read clearly, so if somebody wasn't in this room and they're trying to make sense of the policy and explain it to a student, it doesn't read clearly.
I
am not married to that language. So if we wanted to strike out the ABC, we don't have to take it back for another read. We often make revisions to policies and pass them in the moment if they're not radical revisions.
Yeah.
So are there people who feel very strongly about including or not including the language around ABC? Because it would be quite challenging to earn a 3.5 with anything lower than a C, right? Yeah. So I think it would be a very, very tiny subset of students who could ever pull that off.
Yeah.
So it may not be worth having confusing language, because one of the goals for revising these policies is to make them as clear as possible for a student audience. So the suggestion on the floor is to strike out the with ABC. Are there any counter arguments to that?
Yes, Michelle.
I don't know if it's an argument, but I don't see a problem with this. It's very clear to me. I don't know. I don't see why you need to, it just seems obvious to me that an honor student or someone who's going to receive the honors award would not have D's and F's. But I don't see a purpose in having to say something about D's and F's. The ABC seems fine.
This is an emotion, so I can actually.
Yes.
Okay. So, I agree with Talene that we should remove it because this is for the semester, and there are circumstances where, I've seen students who can pull off a 3.5 in F because it may be a small unit grade, it may be something that they forgot to drop, or whatever the case may be, but they still have a 3.5. I don't think they should be penalized because they got a D or an F. And with that, we need to extend this by another 5 minutes. Sal, I saw your hand. Jeff is a second. Are there any objections to extending this by 5 minutes? Okay, seeing none. Oh, wait, I think I need to ask. No, I didn't. We're good. Yes. So 5 more minutes. Yes.
I was gonna say, it might be good to leave A, B, and C because of like pass, no pass, or other classes you can take that don't impact your GPA. I don't know. So.
Yes.
Asked, has having an F ever disqualified anyone from this?
I think only admissions and records would have the answer to that question.
We'll get that information. I will. Yes.
It's okay, but I think I am gonna make the suggestion that we get rid of the A, B, and C, and the reason for that is that we have quite a few co-requisite classes that are new for students, and a lot of them are half a unit, and students who forget to drop them do receive Fs in them, and they could very easily get a 3.5 apart from that, and so I think it would be disqualifying students because of that. So I'm gonna make the suggestion that we remove the ABC, and then are there any strong feelings against that, or is that change acceptable?
Yes, Jose.
I'm going with my colleague, probably fine with it.
Okay, yes, Catherine.
Just to say, according to my very rough Excel calculations, you can get an F if you're taking 6 classes, but you still have to get A's in everything else. And that's about it.
Yes, Catherine.
Well, I was gonna say, have we looked at other policies from other colleges to see what they have as far as the letter grade?
This language is the language of LACCD. Not that they're the only, but they're the biggest.
Yeah, there's still areas.
Okay, so I need a motion for or against this because we're not.
Yeah, so whoever makes the motion,
lie and I understand it. Can you provide an insight for those who do not agree with what is your vision and why is that so powerful in our revenue?
Anyone?
Well, I can say for me, I was under the impression that the question was the degree, well, right now, is so that's what I was thinking. And the other TTV, I came like looking for comparing that. I don't see why.
Yes, tell me.
If a student took Math 3, 5-unit class got an A, Psych 1, a 3-unit class got an A, English 1A, 4 units got an A, to Counseling 10, 1 unit got an F, because it happens, because they prioritize their math, their psych, and their English class, they would well have over a 3.6 GPA, and they would not get Dean's Honors because they got an F in their counseling class. I wholeheartedly recommend taking the AEC or else to give that student that.
Yes, Nancy.
I agree with Colleen. I think if it represents a barrier in any way, then we should delete it.
Yes, Michelle.
So then why don't you say that you're going to have honors only if you take certain types of classes then, and disregard the fact that you've chosen to take this counseling class and you've gotten an F in your counseling class because you put in this extra time for the academic class. You know, I'm not a counseling teacher, but I am a teacher. That says to me, oh, my class must not be important. You know, they can just blow my class off and still get an honors. And that's not the behavior, I would say, maybe it's the wrong choice of words, but for an honor student to blow off your class. And if I'm a counselor and I'm teaching a class, my class is important to me because I'm trying to do something to help my students.
Okay, is it 16? By 5 minutes. Thank you. Tracy, is there a second? Jeff, second. If there are no objections, we can approve this by unanimous consent. Are there any objections to 5 more minutes? 7 objections? Okay. Then we have 5 more minutes. Yes, Dr. Bernard.
I have a question as to what exactly this does for the students. I mean, I understand it's an honors list and it's on it, but is there any other benefit that they get in terms of scholarship opportunity or anything like that?
So I had this conversation with my students today, Dr. Bernardo, because I was teaching them how to write a resume, and I said, try and get a 3.5 at least one time, one semester, throw everything at it, because then you get to put Dean's Honors List on your resume. So I don't think there's any huge tangible thing, but definitely for scholarship application, internships, job applications, it's a nice thing for them to have on their resume or application.
Sorry, just as a follow-up, is there a record of honors list from every single semester going?
Yes, on their transcript, each semester that they get it, it's listed on the
In
transcript.
general, if somebody wanted to look up Dean's Honors List 1973, so then how would we know, and anybody could do it?
Dr. Altucci?
It's on their record.
It's on their record?
If we pull records from 1973, we would be able to get the list of everyone's got any type of honors. All right, thank you.
Yes, Jeff.
I just wanted to make sure that there's a distinction between this honors and then the honors program that isn't actually, does carry a lot of benefit. Because it's worth saying that could be confused with that, so.
Anyone else? Yes.
I just wondered if, I don't know if you would feel comfortable sharing, but as a student, do you have a feeling one way or another? No pressure.
Yeah, no, I had some thoughts that aligned similarly. The huge thing was just that we always have the option to withdraw. And so when we're enrolling in classes, there's, I think it's about 2-3 weeks where we can still withdraw and pull out courses if we've hit our course load limit, if it's too much for us, and that's the thing, I hear a lot of students do. They'll take a lot of class, or they'll find out 7 is not as good as it's cut out to be, and you'll drop the class because you don't want to, that's where you should be. So I think there's tools available to not have it affect your grade, so it shouldn't be something you can just kind of leave an F hanging on your transcript and still be able to get to the honors.
Yes, Kalu.
Yeah, now that I heard it, so like I completely understand like some of us feel like an honor is an item that a student should earn by taking everything or every class seriously and doing their best. But at the same time, I'm reflecting right now and I'm like, we are in a community college, which is the best part I love about being here, that this is a place that is like second chances for everybody, right? It gives us a second chance. So like, yeah, what if a student did not do well once, you know? I hate to take this one away from them.
Yes, Jose.
I just wanna, remind, Senate about two things. I remember last semester we approved the tax, thing where students have a chance to apply for pass-fail tax by the last week of instruction first semester. And then I was thinking about, second chance, if they don't get it the first semester, they can get it the second semester, correct? This is first semester. So if a student gets an A, B, C, and an F in their one semester, they can get the honors the following semester better. Is that correct? Is that? So it's first semester, so the second semester would be, you know, whoever the next semester and then they can get the honors. I'm gonna try to.
Yes, Rebecca.
I just feel like it's really hard to get a 3.5 if you're, failing classes. Like it does happen. I didn't do too well in aerobics. I don't feel like it's going to be a ton of students affected by this restriction, and so maybe it's better just to leave it out, and then if we feel like a bunch of people are trying to hack the system or whatever, we can come back and put it back in, but it probably won't, too big of a problem.
Yes, Catherine.
So speaking of hacking the system, is there a limit, I can't remember, remind me, of how many no-pass classes you can take? You can take 5 classes.
Yes, it's 12 units total.
Oh, so someone could say, I want 4 pass classes, in this one I'm gonna do pass and still get the honors.
No.
It's more complicated.
So you can't do that?
Probably not, though.
Okay, so we are timed out on this item. Yes, so.
I motion to pass the AP 5925 with the modification of removing A, B, C.
Is there a second? What he said, he motions to approve this item with the changes of A, B, and C grades taken out. Okay, and I got a second by Lindsay. Okay. You may have to, let's see. I'm gonna see if we can do this without a roll call vote, but then we can take one of you guys. Okay. All those in favor of approving this AP with the modifications, please raise your hand. Okay, that looks, well, I'll take it. Could someone please count? Okay. Those who are opposed, please raise your hand. No, you cannot. Nice try. Okay. Those abstaining? 2 abstentions, 3 abstentions. The ayes have it, so this motion this AP is approved with modifications. Okay, awesome. Next item. The next item is, I'm gonna call, Crystal, I'm calling you up for the next 3. Okay? That's not a problem. So that is AP 3550, BP 4260, and BP 5035. But the first one is AP 3550.
Any questions?
Any questions on AP 3550?
So I did make a couple of your recommended changes from last time. You notice I added in the Good Samaritan law and civil liability. If you were worried. Did you want to say, oh, and Professor DeFori asked me to take out the health risks. And I took out the word illicit everywhere I could find and put illegal. There it is. So, just in case you forgot, the whole purpose of this was to add a section on opioids, which is required in Title V.
I can entertain a motion to approve this, but I need Senator to do. Yes, Rebecca.
Motion to approve?
Is there a second? Second by Margaret. Okay, is there any further discussion? Yes, Dr. Murdoch.
I just like, if you could summarize the changes with the language that you added in for the considering on the administration of. Summarize the changes that you made from last time.
So the only changes I made from last time was to add the language on the Good Samaritan law and on the liability law. Oh, and then I took out the section on health risks. Oh, and then I replaced illicit with illegal.
Okay, there is a motion on the floor. All those in favor of approving this AP, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Nay. Okay, one nay. Are there any abstentions? Seeing none, this item is approved.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we're on to BP 4260, which is prerequisites and co-requisites. What has changed?
Nothing since last time, but these are just some reading, sort of making it more understanding changes in board policy.
I can entertain a motion to approve this BP. Anyone? Okay, I saw Catherine's hand first. Mariah, you second? Second, okay. Is there a discussion on this item? Okay, seeing none, can we approve this by unanimous? We can approve this by unanimous. No, let me do this here. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Okay, those opposed, please say nay. Any abstentions? One abstention. Okay, this passes also. Next, we have BP 5035, withholding student records. Any changes?
Not since you saw it last time, but just so to kind of summarize it, in the event that a student does have a debt with the institution, the only thing we can now do is withhold their diploma. So transcript, registration, and all that, those things have to continue. We just can withhold their diploma if it owes money.
Okay, yes, Catherine.
So does that mean that they would also not be able to walk the graduation?
No, they can walk. They just don't get a diploma, because we don't actually give up the diploma, right?
Anyone else? Okay, we're going to entertain a motion to approve this. Is this AP? BP. Jose, I saw your hand first. Is there a second? Second by Rebecca. Okay, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay? Nay. Nay. Are there any abstentions? Okay, seeing none, this motion item passes. Thank you, Kristen.
Well, no, thank all of you, I appreciate the support, it's very helpful.
Okay, now we have new business. The statewide academic senate, OER 2TC TAF grant.
It's ZTC, sorry.
I'm sorry, ZTC. And is Denise here?
Yes.
Okay, awesome.
I would like to welcome Denise to Senate. This is her first time as a new faculty member, so thank you for being here and thank you for your patience and waiting.
Thank you all so much. I could be happy to join you today. And I apologize, I didn't know your procedure, so I went ahead and made copies. I have it copies from you. Yes. Thank you so much for serving. Okay. So I just want to give you a little bit of background on the resolution that's being passed around. As the newly hired OER manager, I am asking, I will be sharing some recent updates, the State Academic Senate, as well as their Open Educational Resources Initiative, and then asking for your support for grant applications that I am currently writing. In recognition of the significant cost of textbooks as a barrier to college attendance, student access, and student success, especially for low-income and historically underserved students, California Education Code 78052 allocated $115 million to develop and implement zero textbook cost degrees that will allow students to entirely complete a degree by taking courses that use only open educational resources. OER, for those of you who don't know, are defined as teaching and learning materials that are available online for free or at a low cost in place of publisher-owned textbooks. Implementing a pathway means that all courses in the program pathway have at least one section that is available to students in the college's schedule of classes that has zero textbook costs. The legislation stipulates that the community college districts develop degrees with consideration for sustainability after grant funding is exhausted, including how content will be updated, and charges the Chancellor's Office with the task of ensuring that grant monies do not fund duplicate efforts in the same subject at different colleges to ensure the development and implementation of the greatest number of degrees for the benefit of the greatest number of students. So in other words, the Chancellor's Office did not want to fund a psychology CTC pathway at PCC while also funding the same degree pathway at MSJC. In July 2022, the Chancellor's Office issued $20,000 to PCC to begin planning the development of a ZTC program pathway. Then in March 2023, $180,000 was issued to the district by apportionment to support the development and implementation of the ZTC program pathway. Having been hired after this date, I am in the process of working with the Chancellor's Office to submit an overdue program work plan, which will propose funding to establish the ZTC pathway for the art history AA degree for transfer by December 2024. Community college districts are now eligible to receive additional funding by submitting ZTC acceleration grant applications. We can ask for up to $200,000 per proposed pathway to develop and implement additional ZTC associate degrees or career technical education certificates. These pathways must be implemented by fall 2026. On September 15th, about 40 community colleges in California submitted ZTC acceleration grant applications, and about the same number, including PCC, requested an extension until November 15th to submit their proposals. PCC plans to request funding to establish pathways for our geography, AAT, public health, AST, and the certificate of achievement in photography. If possible, PCC may also pursue grant funding to establish ZTC pathways for the certificates of achievement in product design as well as fashion design.
Award selection and startup notice began September 22nd, so some awards have already been offered to applicants, including in geography and public health. So as a result, the Academic Senate for California Community Colleges will ask that PCC faculty collaborate with faculty at other colleges receiving the same funding to avoid duplication efforts. As with the Chancellor's Office, the ASCCC OERI's goal is to increase the use of open educational resources in lieu of commercial text by all reasonable means available. So, given that background, today I request Academic Senate support for Pasadena City College's application for ZTC implementation, as well as acceleration grant funding through the California Community College Chancellor's Office via the resolution that's on the screen and in front of you.
Okay, so this is a first reading. This is not a first reading?
No. So there's a deadline of November 15th, so we need to pass the resolution today.
Okay, do I have? We'll do discussion after somebody makes the motion. Okay, so I need a motion first before we get into discussion. Is that a motion? A motion to what?
Approve the
Motion to approve the resolution, sorry.
We have a discussion first.
Well, no, discussion comes after we make the motion. Is there a motion? Yes, Chris. Motion to approve the resolution? Second, Mariah? Okay, now we can have a discussion.
Okay, sorry.
Yes, Danielle.
I'm wondering about the third paragraph, the second line that refers to taking courses that only use free or low-cost instructional materials. And this is the first I've seen low-cost instructional materials be connected to ZTC. I thought that ZTC truly meant zero cost. So I'm wondering about why low-cost instructional materials are included in ZTC.
So the ASCCC has consistently used low cost in their narrative so as not to limit creative. Some of it has to do with the fact that some, for example, free press books, there is a small fee towards students using those materials. It could be $5, it could be $10. They're also open to up to a $30 fee.
Okay, Tracy?
I'm sorry, I have to follow up to my question.
We're right out of time.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, Tracy, by 5 minutes. Is there a second? A second by Khalid. Okay, if there are no objections, by approving by unanimous consent. Are there any objections? You are objecting?
Yes.
Yes.
It sounds like we're gonna be more than 5 minutes.
No. Can't extend. Oh, I'm sorry, yes, she's right. We can only extend for 5 minutes. But we have another 5 minutes after this. Okay, so what was I saying? If there are no objections, we can approve this by unanimous consent. Are there any objections? Okay, we have another 5 minutes. You were doing a follow-up, I'm sorry.
Yes, and I'm sorry to interrupt, I didn't realize we needed an extension.
That's okay.
Who assumes the cost? I understand it's a low cost, up to $30. Who assumes the cost? Does the college assume that, or is it the student? And I have that concern if the student does, because even $5 is a barrier to some of our students.
So, for example, in a studio art course that might be listed as OER ZTC, the student would assume the cost of buying brushes, buying paint, buying paper. And so there's always those sort of less clear-cut areas. The ASCCC is trying to clarify this in a resolution that they will be voting on in the plenary session this semester. They're stipulating a $30 limit to clarify exactly the dimension that you're bringing up.
Okay, Dr. Carroll?
Yes, hi, I have two questions. Are these pathways and degrees selected so that there is no overlap with nearby campuses? Is that what I heard you say?
So the funding was stipulated in the state legislation that it would be non-duplicative. So that PCC couldn't, for example, apply for funding to create a C2C pathway in psychology when Mount SAC was also receiving funding to establish the same pathway in psychology. And what the ASCCC will do is they will create cohorts in order to prevent this duplication, so that Mount SAC and PCC will work together and share the funding to build the psychology pathway.
Yes, Kathy.
Just out of curiosity, if PCC receives this funding, how is that used exactly? Like, would part of that funding go towards creating new zero-cost textbooks for those pathways?
Because previous funding really emphasized the creation of new OER, the ASCCC and the Chancellor's Office is prioritizing pathways so that OER that has already been created will be now implemented, which is why the grant was called an implementation grant. Now that said, yes, the funding can be used as faculty stipends towards the creation of new OER. The idea is that in the pathway, we're better able to identify gaps that exist. So there might be 4 psychology classes that use OER, and there's one maybe abnormal psychology, which for whatever reason doesn't have OER available, and the stipends will be used to create that OER.
I have a point of order. I think this motion is out of order because of our standard operating rules that something is brought for a first read and there's no action taken, there can be no action taken on the first read, and then it has to be brought back up again. So if there's a deadline to say that we approve it, can we approve it unofficially or something like that, and then have to, because this is very out of order.
Actually, I just talked to a parliamentarian and he's assured me that it's not out of order because this is a resolution. Would you like to say more on that, Jordan?
Yes, so your informational items usually are administrative policies and board policies. This is a resolution that's being brought forth to the academic senate. So you don't need a first read.
Is there a specification in the bylaws or something like that?
No.
That says that this is to be done?
No.
And we are up against the time deadline? Okay. Are there any other questions? Yes.
So would all classes in that packet, like geography, every geography class would have to be ETC, or at least just one?
So every time the course is offered in the schedule of classes, at least one section of that course has to be offered as OER.
Yes, Bill.
Yes, hi. I'm definitely in support of OER and CTC. My concern is that is there data to say that students are more successful in courses that have OER options compared to, I guess, textbooks overall?
Actually, there is data. The ASCCC has quite a bit of information available on their website.
Move to extend by 5 minutes.
Okay, and second by Talene. Are there any objections to approve this for another 5 minutes by unanimous consent? Seeing none, we have another 5 minutes, final 5 minutes.
And I appreciate your question because one of the things that the geography department is doing is actually implementing a study to answer exactly your question as it pertains to their degree pathway.
And just my second concern is in terms of academic freedom. I know instructors have always had the option to choose the materials that they feel is best for delivering instruction. Will this force, especially new faculty, that they will only have this OER option, or would they possibly still have that option to choose a textbook?
So this would not force faculty to use OER, and part of the funding, the sort of logic of the funding is to encourage faculty use of OER and exploration. And my position as the OER manager, the college's support of OER puts me in the sort of path of encouraging faculty and working with faculty to find materials that they feel that they can use or to adjust them in ways that they feel are in line with their practices.
Okay, any other questions?
Yeah.
Yes, Tracy.
This is not my area of expertise, but I am concerned that by limiting course material to one way might actually hurt students from them having an opportunity to information via a textbook that would elevate their knowledge in a certain discipline. So I'm not quite sure if this is, I mean, in one way you fix one problem with monetary restrictions of people with their backgrounds. But on the other hand, academically, we want to offer the best in our classes and support that through textbooks and learning. And I'm afraid that what's being proposed here is actually could possibly hurt students from giving them the best possible educational opportunity. So what would you say about that?
So along with faculty freedom, there's also freedom at the student level to choose courses that are non-OER CTC if they're concerned about the materials. Studies have shown though that OER materials are of high quality, that many of them produced in California because California is sort of cutting edge in terms of its state funding of OER materials. So I would really encourage you to investigate OER to dispel maybe some of your concerns.
So part of what you just said is subjective. That is your opinion. I can't say that that is factual about California and OER. That's subjective.
That's not my opinion. California's governor and chancellor's office and the ASCCC unqualified support for OER and CTC pathways.
You're saying qualified support? Unqualified support.
And this is based in studies that show these are quality materials and that students actually do succeed at much higher rates, especially students who are from underrepresented backgrounds. I apologize.
Okay, so we're running out of time, and I want to make sure that our student gets to say something, and then
Just to that point, I've had a lot of classes with very expensive textbooks, some of them with very free textbooks. It's never been something that's slowed down what you learn. You know, it comes down to the teacher, how much time you're putting into it, and how much time you yourself you're putting into it. There are some digital workbooks that are really, really valuable at taking. They cost a lot. The publishers walk into course access codes, and sometimes you wish those were free, but in the end, you get what you pay for. They're very good. But the same is true of free textbooks. Free textbooks often don't have workbooks, which is what the teacher ends up making, but they have the materials, and you're able to learn so much.
But it could shrink down what information would be available to you by only indicating this app.
Tracy, I'm sorry, we need to, that's a cross conversation.
Got it.
Okay, it's Catherine's turn.
Just one thing to maybe suggest, if we have something in credit called the textbook community program.
We are, but you can finish your question.
Okay, so maybe some of the funding could go towards that if there's not a book for a specific class that matches up or whatever, that maybe that we invested in purchasing a number of books that would be the top students, just like the laptops and the
Okay, thank you for that, and we have a motion, we're out of time on this. We have a motion on the floor, and the motion is to approve this resolution. Okay, all those in favor of approving this resolution, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Okay, anyone opposed?
I'm abstaining.
I'm sorry, that's what I meant to say. I'm sorry.
I knew what you meant.
Thank you. So we have one abstention. I think I'm ready to see hands. Okay, please raise your hand if you're in favor of approving this.
It's gonna hurt students.
Okay, and those of you who are opposed, please raise your hand.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, all those who are abstaining, raise your hand. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, perfect, 3 abstentions, and we are approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next item up is the statewide academic senate resolutions with Lindsay Ruiz.
Okay, so you received this 19-page packet. I apologize for it not coming sooner, but we actually had our meeting, our pre-plenary meeting on October 27th, where we kind of looked at the resolutions and we got some feedback. One of the main changes or amendments that was made is in the language change. Oh, it was 7.01 on page 10. In consultation with the chancellor's office, this has to do with meeting the needs, addressing CCC apply impact on current incarcerated individuals and justice-involved students. And so somebody mentioned that the language needs to be changed, not incarcerated students, but perhaps what we at PCC refer to our students as formerly incarcerated and system impacted. So that's been a language change that was amended in our group, our area meetings on the 27th. But I will be attending the plenary session from November 16th, 17th, and 18th. And so what I'm asking is that you take this material to your faculty, that you collect any feedback on which way you would like to vote on this resolution, on all of these resolutions, for or against, or any changes that you'd like to see made. And please have you as our faculty representatives then connect with me and let me know, what feedback you've gotten from your faculty so that I can take it back, because I need to know how to vote. I will be voting on behalf of PCC.
Okay, so this is a first read. You don't have any actions to be taken right now. Yes, Tim?
When would you need that feedback
By
by?
the 15th, by November 15th. Thank you for that, Tim.
Are there any other questions for Lindsay? Okay, thank you, Lindsay. Okay, now I am going to ask the Senate to, if we could approve item J, 1A through C as a block. There is no further voting that we have to do. We have just enough people for each committee. Well, I'm sorry, A through D. Okay, is there a motion? Sheila? Okay, second by Talene. Okay, is there any discussion on this? So, with that being said, okay. Yes.
I have sort of a generic question about this. What is the process of people being submitted for approval or substitutes? How is this done? Does it go through the substitute chair and then it gets?
We have okay, that's a great question. However, we have a motion on the floor, and this isn't necessarily about the motion. So,
I think it is because I need to know how many people were recommended.
How they were what?
Still unclear on the process.
How they were what? I'm sorry.
Were recommended to be put on the committee.
They weren't recommended, go ahead.
Like I explained last week, we get email from HR requesting that we submit names to represent faculty. And I sent out an email, people respond.
Sorry, for the handbook committee?
People they sign up for that.
Are you talking, there's two different things. Is she talking about hiring committees or?
No, I'm not talking about the hiring committee, I'm talking about the other subcommittees.
The subcommittees, so subcommittees, there is a way for people to volunteer, they submit their name. Sometimes, if a group has let us know about their membership, we might ask them, but typically we don't. Typically, we just bring it to the Senate for y'all to agree or not.
Okay, so there is a motion on the floor to approve this as a block. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Awesome. All those opposed, please raise your hand. Okay, one opposed, and any abstentions? 2 abstentions, okay. So these people are approved, this passes, and that brings us to future agenda items. Anyone? Oh, I thought we did approve them. We approved them. To approve them as a block, you are right, my bad. Okay, now, I need a motion to approve the block. Yes, Kaluna. Okay, is there a second? Yes, Jose, second? Okay, now, all those in favor of approving the block, please raise your hand. Awesome. Okay, all those opposed of approving the block? We have 1 opposed, and are there any abstentions? 2 abstentions. Okay, so this block is approved, and now we can go into future agenda items. Is there anyone who has future agenda items? Yes, Danielle.
I have a request from my department for a future presentation on rank advancement and salary advancement to move columns when you do professional development. I can't remember the exact name, but when you're presenting at conferences, you've written a book, how you might be able to advance columns without having college credit.
Your department wants to do?
Not that we want to do
Oh,
it,
we
we're
want to have-
requesting of the body that some future information item be brought forth so we can be kind of just educated on how that process works.
Gotcha, okay, yes, Dr. Rose?
Can I ask a clarifying question? So rank advancement is something that the Senate does, salary cost advancement is HR.
Okay.
So rank advancement?
Yeah, I know that there's already been some back and forth and like it seemed like both of those questions got answered already, but maybe that's helpful for everybody to know about too. Because there was some, just for background for the body, there was just confusion about how non-instructional faculty are qualified to apply for rank advancement. So those questions in our department were answered, but that might apply for other faculty who are in other areas too.
Agreed. Okay, so thank you for that. Announcements. I have an announcement. I got you. Give me just a second. And my announcement is that I don't want anyone to forget that this is Native American Heritage Month and that we have lots of activities going on campus. Please tell your students, please come out so that students can see you participating in their events. It makes such a difference to them. And that's my announcement. Yes, Danielle.
I would add to that the library has a featured collection on Indigenous perspectives and identities that is featured on the main floor of the library, so you can walk up to see a curated collection. Aside from that, my announcement is to invite all of you to please join us at the Shatford Library tomorrow from 12 to 1. We'll be celebrating our 30th anniversary of the LL building. We will have some guest speakers. We're going to have a display of archival images, library tours, and some games for students to play to learn about the library. And we'll have cake and coffee. So please join us. We'd be happy to have you.
Can we play too?
Absolutely. It's for everybody. Community members are welcome too. So if you happen to have like somebody from the community with you, they're welcome too. The library is always open to the community.
Okay. Any other?
Yeah, everyone at PCC has access to Catapult Master Class training as part of the Regional Consortium project. We are one of 9 colleges in LA Region Consortium that has the access to this important effective training. Catapult provides highly impactful professional development master class featuring influential thought leaders, project matter experts, and insightful coaching. If you have any questions, reach out to South Kumo.
Any other announcements? Okay, I need a motion to adjourn. Khalid, I saw your hand. I saw your hands first, and Kaz, I think you had a second. Okay, thank you, everyone. This meeting is adjourned.